Kia ora guys and welcome back to the Black Jersey. My name's Max, I'm the host over here at this channel, and for today's video I'm going to be asking a very particular question about Scott Robertson at the Crusaders. A lot of people discuss team culture, they discuss insert player here being so good, but something they don't really discuss enough is a few other things I want to talk about in today's video. Today's video is going to be a bit of a mix of data analysis and opinions, so bit different from what I usually do. A massive thank you to my patrons as well before we get into everything, because simply put, it took me a while to research all this. I wanted to go into the nitty-gritty of what Robertson's done in particular in comparison to other Super Rugby clubs. So before we get into the really hardcore data side of everything, I want to just go year by year of Razor's journey as the Crusaders coach, and at the end of the video, after we compare what he's done to other clubs, I want to discuss how this could fit into his journey as the All Blacks coach, which I will of course follow up with a part 2 of the video. So first off, he took over in 2017 after Todd Blackadder was the Crusaders coach for 7 years. Blackadder and Robertson ended up being the Crusaders coach for the same amount of time, 7 years. But something that you'll notice with Razor, he immediately came in and he put culture first. He wasn't able to sign Jordie Barrett. Jordie went off to the Hurricanes, so he only had one Barrett. And to create this feeling of culture, he wanted to have a few relatives in his lineup, and so he recruited Cited from the Chiefs, and also his nephew, Manasa Matieli, who now plays for Fiji. Those two were recruited into the team because he wanted to have a culture first. He allowed all these guys like Matt Todd, Israel Dagg, Kieran Reid, he allowed a huge core of All Blacks to remain in the team because he wanted to use their experience as part of this culture as well. And of course, Sam Whitelock was promoted to the captaincy, so Kieran Reid, would have, less stress in that season. And also, something a lot of people don't talk about enough, it's the use of the Crusaders Academy. Over 40 All Blacks in history have become All Blacks because they've been through the Crusaders Academy. And 3 out of 10 of these new signings were promoted from this academy in Razor's first year. Ollie Jaeger, Quinton Strange, and George Bridge all came from the Crusaders system when they were at an age grade level. And so they were already coming into this lineup familiar with a lot of the dexterity, a lot of the jargon unique with the Crusaders. And of course, another thing, it was the innovation of the cover defense. I'm going to show you guys a bit of a excerpt from a previous video of mine to show what the cover defense was and why it was effective for the Crusaders. In the early days of the Crusaders, Scott Robertson used such a pattern as the team's default, deliberately conceding meters to the likes of Kieran Reid and Matt Todd could win easier turnovers after carriers were slowed down by side-on tacklers. We can see a very similar thing in 2018 when John Barclay, the Scotland captain, deliberately concedes meters in order to get the turnover won against England. Now that we're back to my face on the camera though, well, that was just a taste of what was to come under Razor, because in 2018, 8 out of 14 new signings for the club came from an age grade academy club level system. These included Harry Allen, Ethan Blackadder, Jack Stratton, Brett Cameron, Tima Whainga-Anuku, Braden Ennor, and Will Jordan, all coming from age grade systems. There was another wee unique things as well, showing Razor was far ahead of the rest of the world in terms of tactics, because that year he just simply abandoned the crash ball running midfielder and he persisted with the Jack Goodhue Ryan Crotty midfield combo even after Ryan Crotty had a bit of an injury strapped year in 2017. Seretamani remained on the wing despite how good he'd been for the Chiefs in the midfield. He played on the wing for a second season in a row, because Razor was like, you know what, I want to use a second 5 rather than an inside centre. As we now get to 2019, it's not that much of a high percentage again, but 3 out of the 8 new signings came from the academy. Brodie McAllister, Lester Whainga-Anuku, the younger brother, and Ngani Punavai all promoted from the academy. In case you guys are wondering as well, I am counting people who are coming in on short-term deals throughout this video for every single Super Rugby club I'm discussing. There was also a very nice triple fullback strategy at the start of that season when Will Jordan finally got to debut after not playing in 2018 due to injury. George Bridge on the left wing, Will Jordan at right wing, and David Havili at fullback. It was giving them a lot of very nice cover for that backfield because Bridge, I went to high school with him. He played fullback when he was in our school first 15. When I was year 8, he was year 13. There was also the fact of, this was allowing more fluidity in the pre-prepared tactics. Either of these three could fit into a particular role, and it was gutting we didn't get to see that strategy used more often because Jordan did get injured again. In 2020, well, after World Cups, there's always a big excess of players. Matt Todd went out. He was replaced by Tom Christie, promoted from the academy. Kieran Reid, the All Blacks captain, went out. He was replaced by Cullen Grace, promoted from the academy. In came Fergus Burke and Dallas McLeod. McLeod obviously replacing Ryan Crotty, and McLeod himself is now an All Black today. He's played one test. So 4 of the 9 new signings all coming from an academy system. Awesome stuff, especially for, Fergus Burke getting to be behind Richie Mo'unga, the star player of that team. Leicester Fainga'anuku also being a bit of a power winger in order to give him more of a better skill set, I guess. Robertson gave him some game time in the 13 jersey that year to improve his ball playing skills, potentially work on his kicking, get him better under the high ball because he wanted to continue the triple fullback strategy if possible, but David Havili getting injured didn't allow for that, so Will Jordan, of course, became a regular starter in that jersey. And Scott Barrett as well, for succession planning, handed the captaincy at 26 years old, with Sam Whitelock going on a sabbatical to Japan. Obviously, Whitelock came back for Super Rugby Aotearoa, but a very similar thing with Whitelock handed the captaincy when Razor came along, allowing Reece to get freed up to do his thing. And of course, Barrett had played for Razor since the age of 20 in 2014. I'll come back to this talking point soon because in 2021, half of the new signings once again came from the academy. Fletcher Newell, Tamaiti Williams, they are both All Blacks in the modern day. The two of them in the front row coming off the bench against Argentina in the semi-final. Liam Allen also came in on a short-term deal, whereas in the back line, Isaiah Punivai and Shafi Haki also came in from the academy, which is really awesome stuff. I also noted 2021 was kind of the year where Jason Ryan started to step out of Razor's shadow. It was, I guess, them perfecting a trend that began around 2018-2019 because everyone was expecting the opposition to play really fast in Japan in 2019, but because everyone expected that from the opposition, we got in 2019 a very defense-oriented Rugby World Cup, and because the maul was such a popular method of scoring tries, they perfected this. I'm going to show you an example of what Jason Ryan was often doing with this French example you see on screen. Now, as you can see, the French example we can see on screen, they are essentially mauling in the shape of a scrum, and the Crusaders were doing a very similar thing. They were also counter-mauling in the shape of a scrum, and so because of that, the Jason Ryan All Black forward pack has not conceded many tries against a driving maul at all. Augustine Creevy and Malcolm Marks, if my memory serves me correctly, they are the only players who have scored tries off the driving maul against Jason Ryan's All Blacks forward pack. 2022, before we get onto that though, I do want to discuss this again. David Havili came in from the 15 jersey to the 12 jersey. Will Jordan was playing so well, so why fix what isn't broken? Havili had played several times in midfield for Razor before, so we decided to make that idea permanent. Having used Ryan Crotty, having used Jack Goodhue in the role before, guys who can kick, he decided he wanted to go with a bit of a longer boot. He wanted a proper second 5 in that jersey, and it was the death of the inside centre that year, with Havili really just showing how things need to be going forward. It's all well and good to have the jackal threats, it's all well and good to be a very good defender, but you've got to give your 10 some backup off the boot if he doesn't exactly have the room to kick for touch or something like that. In 2022 though, we will get onto this now, this was a very odd year that distorts the data, and when we get to the next segment of the video, a lot of the data has been distorted for every single team because of injury crisis. So 16 new signings in 2022 because of all the injuries, because of a lot of the viruses going around. But Finlay Brewis, Seb Calder, George Bell, Shiloh Klein, Zach Gallagher, Dominic Gardner, and Corey Kello, they all came through the academy because they signed Pablo Matera, probably quite an expensive player, one of the best open side flankers in the world at that time, though he has had a bit of an injury in 2023 that ruled him out of the playoffs. That's exactly how you counter it. You're spending big money on a really expensive player who's world class, use the rest of that money to promote the guys from the academy. It's just the perfect balance, you know what I mean? And Matera being in the starting lineup because he's also got the height to be a bit of an enforcer, it allowed for him and Ethan Blackadder and Tom Christie, whichever one of those guys was starting at 7, to be used as a bit of a dual open side system, because over in Argentina, it's actually the open side who wears 6 on their back and the blind side with 7 on their back, as we see with Marcos Kramer in the lineup, and that was winning the Crusaders a heck of a lot of turnovers. Another thing as well, they were often using a centre on the wing on attack, so Havili, Goodhue, Enor, Whainga, Anuku all getting interchangeable as distributors in the wider areas of the pitch. That was really nice to see, and Whainga Anuku was able to make his All Blacks debut after showing a bit of that offloading ability on the edge of the field. 2023, Razor's final year in charge of the Crusaders. 5 of 17 new signings, injury crisis again, came from an age grade system. These guys were Jamie Hanna, Louis Chapman, and Joel Lamb on short-term deals. Same with Will Golter, while they signed Macca Springer out of the academy from Tasman straight away. There was also, to develop a bit more of that cohesion, the outright theft of Hamilton Boy High School 9-10 axis. This axis was Noah Hotham and Taha Kemeda back when they were at the high school, and they got to reunite at the Crusaders after being snatched from the Highlanders and the Chiefs age grade system respectively. So going forward in the Crusaders setup in the current year, Taha Kemeda at 10 and Noah Hotham at 9 can reunite it from school level at professional level and just take their careers up a notch because they already know each other. Despite all these injuries, it was a 7th consecutive title for Razor. He won every trophy he could have won aside from Super Rugby Trans-Tasman in 2021, that going to the Blues, so it shows he knows a lot about cohesion and building a team culture and getting a good TWI ratio. TWI, I've used a depth chart video for several teams in the past to explain combination building and how this is showing, the teamwork between players in a previous video. So to kind of show that Razor uses this, I want to show you this clip from the 10-14 rugby as well to show his understanding of this factor and how he sees it as an assistance to the team.
There's a term called teamwork index, which the amount of times people have played together, so the combinations, and if they've come together and they've played together, so for example, us use a context here, you've got so Mitch Drummond come through with Richie Mo'unga, or Richie Mo'unga coming through with a Ryan Crotty, and then Ryan Crotty playing with Jack Goodhue. So they've all played with each other along the way. So when they're young, Mitch Drummond and Richie played all their age group together, came through the New Zealand 20s, which I coached. They came through from our own academy, so all their language, all the structure, all their training was done together. So the teamwork index and amount of time you played together, not just on the field, but we're trained off the field now as well. And then you go to test rugby, the next level becomes innate, the understanding, and that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what you're like under pressure. I know what Gareth you will do under pressure and how I can get you out, Romano Moody. So if you keep buying people in all the time, your teamwork index keeps changing because you're changing partners, you're changing the person they're beside, so you lose a little bit of trust, and they've normally come from another place, so they've come from another team and they've done it in a different way. And then they've got to relearn, so they've got a habit, so we don't do it like there, but no, actually, this is how we do it. So that's why the growth from within's quite important, and retention, and so for a long period of time. So we've got the most centurions of any super team.
And now that we get back to me again, we see that these factors are very, very unique to Razor. As I said at the start of the video, Todd Blackadder was the head coach for just as long as Razor and didn't get any titles, whereas Rob Penny, who was taking over for 2024, just 2 of the 8 new signings are coming from a Crusaders age grade system. Those 2 are Taylor Cahill at lock and Johnny Rover at centre, whereas of course Jamie Hanna is getting promoted from a short-term deal to a full-time contract. Man, oh man. See, this is the thing with Razor. He understands the key of promoting from within to make transitions easier. So many players, so many, have come through that academy and turned into world-class players. And to really just demonstrate this in data, now as we see with the data on screen, 39% of the Crusaders' new signings from Razor, they came through the academy system. This is compared to just 24% for the Hurricanes, 20% for the Highlanders, 25% for the Blues, and 28% for the Chiefs. So, the Crusaders are a whole 11% of the next best team in terms of promoting from within. Now we look at all the signings from all of the years together, sliding across on screen so we can really see this in numbers. Do excuse the spelling though, I did calculate all of this with my father who's not the best speller, but it's all good. You guys can see with all of the data that we just looked at on screen that it's a case of fact-based evidence of teamwork. The geniuses at Gainline Analytics have created data to show relationship building in real life. Razor, being an expert, being ahead of the curve, used that data and he made himself into a champion head coach. Now, so what can we expect with him of the All Blacks? Expect him to bring a lot of those Crusaders from the academy to the Crusaders and to the All Blacks. Promoting from within, building a team culture, it's huge. But the question is, can he continue being a champion as the All Blacks coach? We're going to find out in part 2 of this video, so thank you very much for watching, guys. My name's Max, I've been the host over here at The Black Jersey, and just remember as well, do subscribe, do like the video, and do comment your thoughts at the end. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers for watching, from Max.